Hello and welcome back to OC Avery. Today is day 25 of incubating ornamental duck eggs. You'll be seeing this video in two parts. The first part is this part where I'm locking down the eggs, stopping them from rotating so the chicks can move in their eggs, get the heads to the most top point of the egg and then can begin to hatch. Ducks usually hatch at day 28, so we've got 3 days. So that's the first part of the video. The second part of the video, you're going to be seeing ducklings hatching and hopefully ducklings running about as well. So I'll just make this very simple and quick. Basically, how I do it, obviously remove the incubator lid like this, remove the dividers, okay? Okay, now I'm going to show you this just one by one, and as I remove the eggs from the incubator, I'm going to put them on a towel. So there's a light. See, no light is coming through. They are, so now you can see that's where the membrane is, and that's the duckling, and that is the air sac. And you might be able to see just there might be the duckling's beak. So there we are. So that's one fertile due to hatch. Same again, that's two. That is three. That is four. That is five. So that's five. And there is number six. Now, sadly, by the look of this, it hasn't developed. As you can see there, we can see the air sac and we can see this area, but this area is not dark and black like the other areas. Obviously, we can see some sort of, it looks like a growth here. So this may have started developing, or that could literally just be the egg starting to rot from the heat. So there you are. So we have 5 or 6 eggs due to hatch. You might wonder where the quail eggs are. They're in this incubator, which is right next to me, just here, and they're due to be hatching today. So you'll see a part of an update on that in this video later on. I'll remove this egg now because this egg isn't going to hatch, and leave the other 5 to go. Now, as it goes to setting the eggs, this is an anti-slip mat. It's just like a grid, very easy to set in. Then each egg, give it space, hoping to get this enough. Let's go that one there as well. Yeah, there we are. So we'll do that egg there, that egg there, that egg there. Okay, so there we are. There are our duck eggs all set in the incubator, ready for hatching in a few days' time. Now, what I'll just tell you very quickly is how I set the incubator up. So now I'm just going to put the lid back on, keep the heat in as the eggs have cooled down, and now we just have to adjust the settings on the incubator, which I will show you now. Incubator is very simple. So now temperature will go to 37.5 degrees. That is what it's set at. I've obviously just put the lid back on. Humidity, so now it's a case of increasing humidity. So it was set at 55. Now this goes as high as 70, so we set it there. So they are your settings for days 25 to hatch of incubating ducks. So 37.5 degrees, 70% humidity. Now, ideally for ducks you want 85%, but that doesn't matter. I'll add, so here, just add here, a cup of water. I always make sure the water is warm, as adding cold water just doesn't do the incubator any good. And it just makes it work harder because it's going to have to heat that water now. If I add warm water, it gets the humidity up straight away. So there we are. This is now day 25 of hatching ornamental duck eggs. See you in the next part, day 28. Hopefully ducklings will be following now. There we are. So, day 30 right now. I know I said day 28, but it's now day 30. 2 ducklings, here and here. So, you might be wondering, we had 5 eggs that I set. So what happened? Well, here's what happened. Let me explain. So, it was on day 28, and the ducklings began to hatch. All 5 had picked the eggs, obviously started to break through. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll have seen it on my Instagram story, at OC Avery. So, why do we only have 2 ducklings is the question. When they began to hatch, usually what happens is they start to pip the egg and begin to break through the shell and the membrane without absorbing the yolk. They begin to absorb the yolk, and as they begin to absorb the yolk, they use that energy from the yolk, which is basically their 48-hour energy source. For the first 48 hours of their life, they live just off that. And they began to absorb that, and that's when they pip. Well, these guys had begun to absorb the yolk and pip, but then something wasn't quite right, and I'm not sure exactly, but they stopped pipping and hadn't pipped for nearly 36 hours they'd began. So I removed the shell, of which they cracked, just to make sure, and got some pair of tweezers right here, and just got it under the membrane and just pulled the membrane up slightly, just so the oxygen could start flowing in, and so the ducklings could breathe. Obviously, whatever you do, do not do that unless you have experience, because the last thing you want to do is cut a blood vessel, or that is what will kill a duckling very, very quickly. So we ended up here with 5 ducklings, but all had stopped after 36 hours. So I don't like to intervene, because natural hatching is always the best, but I felt that the ducklings were at risk. If they'd pipped 36 hours prior, that is when they start to absorb the yolk, and the yolk only lasts 48 hours for energy, so they was on maybe the last 12 hours before it would have gone very downhill. So I helped and broke the shell around the egg, allowing them to very quickly go through. Left it 5 hours, 6 hours later, and still we got nothing. They hadn't, so it was time to intervene, because if we hadn't, we'd have lost all the ducklings. So I took the pair of tweezers again and sliced the membrane through, avoiding obviously all the blood vessels, so the ducklings could all breathe, and then could remove themselves from the egg when they felt fit to do so. So I did that, and we had 5 ducklings all there, sort of cheeping, moving a bit, but obviously they're still surrounded by that final layer. Anyone who hasn't hatched ducks before, or just eggs in general, there is 3 layers to a duck or an egg. The outer layer, which is the shell, a middle layer, which is the main membrane. So for example, if you peel a boiled egg, you will find that sometimes that membrane layer is left, and then there's a 3rd layer, and this 3rd layer only occurs if the eggs are actually being incubated, and this is like I guess you could say an amniotic sac around the duckling, which is surrounded in blood vessels feeding the duckling as it grew, and then it's only attached by one point, which is basically the duckling equivalent of a belly button. And well, they all got to that stage, and then I left them overnight and came down the following morning, and all was dry. We got 2 who passed away because they just hadn't been able to get themselves out, and I have no idea why. They just passed randomly. humidity was absolutely fine. I try and get humidity spot on to make sure that nothing dries up, and it still had. And then we ended up where I got 3 ducklings, all still alive, but in that sort of stage. So first one I got and cut the amniotic sac layer, managed to pull the duckling out. It was weak, it was okay. And then so that's this duckling. This duckling is now nearly 24 hours old. This was yesterday. So here's the first duckling. As you can see, I think it needs to be bathed around its eyes just to make sure it can open them fine. It still needs to fluff up. I think I'll just have to clean its feathers here. So I can't tell exactly what this is at the moment. It could be mallard, or it could be some mallard base, so it could be teal, it could be something else. Then for this guy, I slit the membrane layer. Obviously, the blood vessels are dried up by then, which I'm very thankful for. So I just slit that and began to pull him out. Anyway, come to it, and he hadn't absorbed his yolk at all. I have no idea why, because ducklings will only start to pip when they actually have absorbed their yolk to some degree. So not fully absorbed, but at least partially absorbed, because that's where they get their energy from. So this guy's just nearly finished it. It's still attached, so I'm just leaving that now to dry out. Once it's dried out and it's dried off, that will just drop off and he'll be able to fluff up and stand and sort himself out. As for third duckling, I don't know what on earth the third duckling was. It came out, it was silver colour with a yellow breast, and I'm not exactly sure what that was at the moment. I've got suspicions it was actually a whistling duck or maybe a shell duck, but I'm really unsure. And I again just slit the membrane, removed it from the duck, and left it because it hadn't absorbed the yolk. All of the ducklings had barely absorbed the yolk. This one, when I've actually hatched it out, still had the yolk attached. I had to make sure it stayed in the egg and absorb the yolk enough. But this is the thing, that they were 2 days overdue anyway. Began pipping before absorbing the yolk, and then pretty much forced herself out of there before that happened, really. So thankfully this one is okay. He'll be moving to the brooder soon. I'm just going to have to make sure he really dries out and is absolutely fine before I can. And as for the other duckling, which was the potential whistling duck, I'm not entirely sure what happened, but I came down this morning to check the duckling, and it had died the night because the main blood vessel, which is connected from the yolk into the duckling, it had cut and basically bled out, which is very upsetting and disturbing. Obviously I try and do my absolute best for these guys. I try not to intervene, but when sometimes you have to intervene, otherwise you risk losing them all. I must say that these two wouldn't be alive right now if I hadn't done what I'd done. I've basically saved their lives. So we've got 2, which, it's okay. However, I do think, as for an overall reason as to why these ducklings struggled to hatch, and we're 2 days overdue, for one, and then also the fact that these guys, they didn't absorb the yolk. The only reason I could put it to is the fact that what had happened is, if you imagine an egg and how an egg works, an egg is an area of set volume. The shell keeps that space So the duckling grows to the size of the egg, and grows perfectly inside of it to allow it enough room to manoeuvre. These ducklings hadn't been able to manoeuvre because they were far too big, and hadn't been able to absorb their yolk sac because they were far too big. And I think that is the overall reason for death. Therefore, these ducklings surely, or at least the other three, surely can't be one thoroughbred, pure breed duck. There could have been their mother being a mallard, I think, because the egg was quite small, mallard-like anyway. But their father was something far larger, so could have been a shell duck, could have been a northeast Indian duck. So I think the other three weren't purebred ducks, or the egg was misshaped or something along those lines, which is a real shame, as we lost 3 ducklings due to that. No fault of their own, no fault of mine. They just sadly, I think it's what can occur when you have domestic breeds in with wild breeds, where the ducks just simply will interbreed, and it will cause this to happen. So yeah, I don't want to dwell on that, and really, I don't want to ruin the video, and I obviously won't show any graphic content, as that's the last thing I want to show for your guys. So with that being said, here are our 2 ornamental ducks. Obviously, I don't know what breed exactly. I'm going to suggest that they are mallard base. We have certain markings appearing. So, we look at the face, it's mallard-like, the duckling, and obviously the chest as... It's okay. There you are. And same for this guy. So I think the mallards, or mallard base at least, they could come out as a gadwall, a teal, a pintail, something along those lines, maybe a pochard or something. But yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this video. Apologies for almost the anticlimax. Obviously we was hoping and really expecting for some really flash ducklings, some really exciting ones, and quite a few as well, not just the 2, but the main priority right now is making sure that these 2 are fine, they are safe, they are healthy. So there we are. This is our ornamental duckling hatch. Well, the first one anyway. We might do another. If you'd like to actually see another, leave a like and leave a comment of actually what you'd like to see hatched. If you don't want to see ducklings be hatched, but you want to see something else, I don't know, chickens, peacocks, turkeys, emus, quails, partridge, pheasant, a number of things, leave that in the comments, and yeah, hope to see you in the next video. So thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe if you're new, and you enjoy the content with the birds, the ducklings, etc. Leave a like and a comment and turn your notifications on. Thank you.